Three. Hey, welcome back to another Epidose of these crazy people who just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. I'm Tom. I got my buddy Joe with me today. Today we're going to talk about our Facebook groups. My main Facebook group that I talk about most of the time is Autistic Carnivores. It's climbing in membership. We're not quite to 1,000, but we're right on the cusp. So come sign up. Joe has a great group called Australian Carnivores and Meat-Based Lifestyle. And today we kind of thought we'd talk about why we have these groups and how important they could be and, what function they serve. So, Joe, you want to fill us in a little bit about your group, how it got started?
Sure. So my group started, I think it was about March last year, and it came about because I thought to myself, I like helping people, and so I thought I'll start a group and try and help people in the sense that throw up a bit of information about the benefits of the carnivore diet, and also help people with sourcing food as well. Because being a chef, you're pretty spoiled when it comes to getting food and understanding about different types of meat as well. So that came about, and the group it hasn't got very many members. It's only at about 216, but it's got some very interesting people in the group. From doctors to chiropractors to professional athletes, and I mean professional, not they think they are. And so the group came about that way, and it's just a good little group. We don't talk about vegans because we're not interested in that. We're only interested in our health, sourcing meat.
Would you like me to share a quick little screenshot of it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So this is, so for people who are interested in the group, it's called Australian Carnivores and Meat-Based Lifestyle. So particularly if you're an Aussie or you're in that part of the world, you might want to sign up. It is a good group. I'm a member there myself, so I do enjoy it. And Joe does a good job of running it. Look at Joe even shows off his fancy steaks he eats.
Yeah, I just like to show people, I like to be transparent and say, hey guys, this is what I eat, and there are people that will ask questions. And, one of the group members, Paul, he likes to put a link to a Monday night meeting, carnivore meeting. So I did call it, originally I was going to say, okay, it's just for carnivores. And I thought, look, there are people that do a meat-based lifestyle as well. So, it could be a meat-heavy keto and whatever. So I just wanted to include a lot more people. So that's why I called it Australian Carnivores and Meat-Based Lifestyle. Yeah, and it is. Sorry, I was just going to say, and it's open to everyone. Even though it's an Australian group, it's open to everyone. You might see something there and go, hey, that's really cool, and you might want to source it in your own country.
They even let a Yank like me in. So
I've got a few Yanks in there. We've got a Kiwi.
Yeah, so Kiwi or two in there. So
we've got a Kiwi in there, yeah.
You got a great source. You have a pal named Norm that raises his own beef, right? And he has a beef wholesale place.
That's right, yep. So, he's, he said to me about 2 months ago, hey, listen, put it up in your group, and that way if anyone wants any meat, they can contact me direct, and, I'm happy to help them out. So that's what I'm all about, helping people, because, look, meat can be quite expensive, but, you've got to know where to look for it. And it's not just meat. There's also, seafood. Sometimes I'll buy some oysters or some prawns, and I like to post that as well.
Yeah, excellent. Well, and you're a chef, so people get some ideas of how they should actually cook things from you. Right.
Well, it's funny, but it's funny, Tom, because I think all my photos, the meat is either barbecued or cooked in the cast iron pan with a bit of salt.
Yeah.
And that's how I like it. I like it plain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
That's
want any.
how I eat most of the time too. So
Yeah, so but it's
yep.
just good because sometimes we get into trouble, where we can't find a piece of meat, or meat's quite expensive. So, we want to give people alternatives. And in the group, we do have some athletes in there. And I like to show people, hey guys, you can still achieve incredible athletic performance on a carnivore diet, whether it be endurance or explosive power. You just got to give it time, and uh, you'll see results.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mostly prepare the simple food, but yesterday I was smoking bellies and collars off of big fish, like tuna. And my friend had given them to me, and I told him I'd smoke them and bring him some back. And typically, this meat is marinated, and so I'm looking up these recipes that people normally use. A lot of them have like soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, brown sugar, honey, all that stuff in it. So, and our buddy Justin was coming over. Justin is particularly sensitive to soy. He gets migraines sometimes from it. So he suggested an alternative called Coco Beanos. So it's like it tastes like soy sauce, but it's made from coconut, and it's full of amino acids for some reason. I don't know why. So I went and I found some, and I got a teriyaki flavored, and I got a soy flavored, and we did half and half. And then instead of adding sugar, I added in monk fruit extract, which is like a non-caloric plant-based sweetener. If it was just me, I probably wouldn't have. But I had other people that are non-carnivore, in particular the guy who provided the fish, expecting something, expecting some normal preparation. So yeah, well, we smoked it up, spent a little over an hour and a half in the smoker. Came out just incredibly good. I can't believe how good it tasted. So, and as far as I know, Justin didn't have any reaction to the cocominos, so it went well. Went very, very well. It was
That's good.
a nice way to spend the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So
So what about your group, Tom? Tell us a little bit more about that, how that all came about. And
I forget exactly when I started Autistic Carnivores. It was a while ago, over a year ago for sure. And basically, I knew myself. So it's from September 2018 is when I started it. So there you go. And I had, noticed that I felt a lot better on carnivore. Keto was kind of my stepping stone. I felt better on keto, and I felt even better on carnivore. And I thought, well, there's got to be a few other people out there who made the same leap. And because a lot of the symptoms, autistic people are notorious for having digestive issues. Like I try and find somebody on the spectrum that hasn't had lifelong digestive issues, and then the things like anxiety. A lot of autistic people have high levels of anxiety, and to some extent you'll find depression is very common. And then the a lot of it's socially uh, dependent and stuff like that. So you find all this is getting better. I had really bad arthritis, psoriasis, and stuff like that. I had all those issues. They were all getting better, and I was like, well, what I wanted to do was like just to have a place where people could talk about these things. Just like you were the only carnivore you knew when you started, right?
yeah,
I was the only carnivore I knew when I started. That's why I think was it 2018 or so. I was like, oh, I could go meet Sean Baker. It's like because we both live in Southern California. I'm like, he's literally going to be the first other carnivore I ever met in person. He's also like one of the most famous. So I was like, you know, basically killing two birds with one stone, and so uh, it turned out Sean has a son that's on the spectrum, you know, and I know plenty of people that have children on the spectrum, but like I've said many times, I haven't had much of an impact on the people right around me. A little bit, but not much. But when I have a group like Autistic Carnivores, it's got over 900 members now, and then we make these videos. We have an impact on a lot of people. We make that information available to people and help people realize that they can have a better quality of life. Let me give you a screenshot of the group here so people know what it looks like. We basically, the goal is to help each other have a better quality of life. It's like, some people have simple questions like, how to get started, or, what do you eat? Or, a lot of people have kids. It's like, how do you get your kids to try it? Stuff like that. People struggling with various things. Some people don't know how to cook, or some people aren't familiar with one type of meat or another, or they just don't know. They've never had to, let's say, prepare food without it containing some sort of plants or something. So I'll just share the screenshot and remind everybody. It's called Autistic Carnivores. It's on Facebook, and you can join. Membership's been actually increasing the last few days again. We're going through a little surge, so we're growing. Hopefully, we'll hit 1,000 soon. And people in there are pretty friendly. It's not a real rigid group. I don't have a lot of rules and stuff like that. As long as people are nice to each other. So come on in and make some friends. Ask your questions, tell your story. I love collecting people's stories, whether they just leave a comment in the Autistic Carnivores or whether we actually sit down and do a video with them. Either way, I'm good, because I think the anecdotal evidence is strong. So many people turn around lifelong conditions just by changing their diet. And then, it's kind of hard for people to imagine that being on a carnivore diet really isn't all that extreme. Once you're on it, you realize how simple it is. Like I was just telling you, it's like I like planning ahead and knowing what I'm going to eat tomorrow or the next day. I like to know how much I'm going to spend shopping, and so on and so forth. So if I'm just eating steak, like lately I've been eating ribeyes or New York strips because they've been on sale. And I'm like, okay, how many can I buy? When can I buy them? How many are going in the freezer? How many going in the fridge? How many going to cook today? It's like, oh, it's easy because it's just meat and salt usually. That's it. And sometimes I don't even bother with the salt. So for me, that is great. I'm one of those people who can eat the same thing all the time. I'm one of those people who really enjoys routine, at least in that aspect. So for me, carnivore is easy. It's easier than any other diet I've ever been on, hands down. And I feel better, right? My cognitive abilities are better. My anxiety is lower. My joint pain's gone. My psoriasis is going away again, and I'm killing it at the gym when it's open. you know,
How about your gut? How's that?
like that's great. I had really bad heartburn my whole life, all the time, and from the time I was a little kid. I also had seasonal allergies all the time, which often led to like sinus infections and ear infections and stuff like that. And all that's gone. I've had a sore throat twice in the last 3 years, and that's all the illness I've had. And they were both like a day or two, like, my throat hurts, and then went away. And normally within that span of 3 years, I would have caught a couple of colds a year, a flu maybe, and definitely had several sinus infections, probably an ear infection or something like that each year in that time. Plus, I've been taking all kinds of medication for allergies and, anxiety and psoriasis and all kinds of other stuff that they, put you on. So I I basically require little or no medication. If I take any medication, it's very rarely. It's occasional. I'm not on anything daily or anything,
Yeah.
and I feel good. I'm very active. I get a lot done, and my mind is clear, and I just want to share that with everybody. I think most people go on carnivore experience the same thing, lifelong joint pain and stuff. I've talked about torn shoulder, collapsed disc, a GSW to the left hand, sciatica, um, really bad pain in my feet and hands. All that stuff's gone away, you know. So it's like a new world, and you just do it by changing your diet.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned, going back a little bit, the gut, and how, because we know that the gut and the brain is linked, right? So, you know, it's amazing how people on a carnivore diet who are autistic or on the spectrum can really resolve the gut issues. What's behind that, Tom? You probably know better than what I did. Like what?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why people on the spectrum, as it were, your autistic people and your Asperger's people, why they have so many more gut issues. But it's duly noted even in children. And one might ask themselves, why are they also more prone to seizures, right?
Mhm.
And I think it was you who's made the comment the other day that you had heard something to the effect that if you're diagnosed bipolar, they basically put you on anti-seizure medication, right? And then you start to wonder, how could all these things be related, right? Where we're like,
Mhm.
why does bipolar require seizure medication, and somehow the ketogenic diet or a high fat diet is related to controlling seizures, and it also seems to alleviate uh, um, migraines, right? And it also seems to alleviate digestive issues. So how are they related? I don't think we really know, other than this: when you eat meat, meat's mostly absorbed in the small intestine, so right below the
Mhm.
stomach. So there's not as much work for the lower bowel to do, or the large intestine. And most people do have issues with the large intestine. That's typically when people have, let's say, IBS or Crohn's disease, diverticulitis. What's the other one I'm not remembering that we hear about all the time? Uh,
Leaky gut.
not the leaky gut so much, because that's usually the small intestine, the upper one. But there's another one that's real common. I'm sure everybody out there knows what I'm talking about. So when you eat meat, those tend to get better, and your large intestine, the lower bowel, tends to have to do very little work. It's almost as if a high plant diet overworks your lower intestine. It's like all that fiber, indigestible fiber, is really just irritating it.
Mhm.
And I think we've seen that study. There's been several studies that said that fiber, uh, you know, uh, this whole concept of eating more fiber doesn't really hold water. People have chronic uh, idiopathic constipation. It's like only like 25% of those people get any relief from adding fiber to their diet.
Mm.
And for quite a few people, it makes it worse, right? So when you add indigestible fiber to somebody's diet, then when they try to have a bowel movement, it's just making that bowel movement stiffer and harder to move,
Mhm.
because it's harder for it to change shape as it transits through the digestive system. So
Paul Mason does a good video on that.
does he? Yeah.
The whole fiber myth.
Yeah. Yeah, the fiber myth. So I think there's a good book. I think it's called The Fiber Menace. So
Yep.
it explains all this quite well. So yeah, we just all been taught that, like, oh, you got to eat a lot of fiber, and like things like high fiber breakfast cereals, or breads and stuff like that are real common, because people think it helps them clean themselves out. And conversely, they think, well, if you're just on a meat diet, you must be constipated all the time. But
Mm.
I'd be honest with you, the people that have battles with constipation on carnivore are few and far between, and they tend to have been people that had problems before. It doesn't seem to be something that's caused by the diet, and even those people tend to normalize before too long, and then they're having, I think in the big survey they did with carnivores have a bowel movement 1.2 times a day on average. So, and that was a pretty big survey. I think it was over 1,000 people. So, that's some pretty good regularity as a group. So,
I mean, I mean, the fiber bulks up your stool.
mhm.
Okay, so whereas the meat won't bulk it up, and I don't know if you've noticed when you do go to the bathroom, there's not that big mountain of, you know, big elephant turd in the toilet, because
Right.
your body will absorb most of it.
Yeah. So fiber presents a whole bunch of problems because it tends to trap water. So your body's not able to recover as much water as it's supposed to, because that's supposed to happen in the colon. Is the colon's supposed to reabsorb water before the waste leaves your body.
Mm.
It traps nutrients. Fiber traps nutrients. So all kinds of nutrients that you should be absorbing are actually bound up with the fiber. And then certain types of fiber, of course, uh, are broken down to some degree in the large intestine or the colon, but then that produces gas. So, people going on carnivore are notorious for saying, God, I haven't passed gas in a long time. It's like, when I do pass gas, it's shocking, because it's like, I can't remember the last time I had any gas. So, I know a lot of vegans or a lot of people who are plant-based say, oh, yeah, yeah, passing gas is normal. It's a normal human function. You should be passing gas all the time. And I don't know. I think it was Gregor or something that he was saying, oh, yeah, yeah, it's perfectly normal to pass gas like 26 times a day or something. And I was like, God, I'd be surprised if I pass gas 26 times a year now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so rare.
you scare yourself when you do rip on the. Yeah, oh, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and
Didn't even know I could still do that.
it usually only happens when I eat something I don't normally eat. If I'm eating the regular diet, I just don't pass gas. So, um, there's a lot of issues with fiber, and that's the thing. You stop eating fiber, I think people's a large intestine or their colon tends to shrink just because they don't get that big, massive bowel movement trying to move through them all the time. So naturally, for people who struggle with hemorrhoids and stuff like that, they report a lot of relief or reversal as well, because like you said, you just don't have to pass as much. So you're absorbing almost all that meat you eat. There's just a little bit left, and there's always the lining of your digestive tract. Is those cells are replaced almost daily, so they slough off, and they're part of your waste. So it's not just food coming out. So, to some extent, if you're eating anything at all, your digestive tract is going to be replacing its own lining regularly. So there's going to be something coming out. And a little bit of the meat we eat, I mean, like, I like chewing on gristle or, joint tissues and stuff like that, or fascia or whatever. And some of that stuff's really tough, and you're not going to quite digest all of that. So
Yeah,
some of that's going to go through. But yeah, I think that is one of the reasons why, because there's so many potential problems people have with their digestion. Whether it's just their stomach's easily irritated and they get nauseated, or they get, there's heartburn, GERD. Uh, I don't know how many similar type basically acid reflux based
mm.
conditions there are. I know people like to split hairs about which one is which, but lots of people suffer from that, and then lots of people suffer from bloating, or just discomfort, or diarrhea or constipation, and all that tends to go away. Of course, changing your diet, almost any diet, can cause that temporarily, but it shouldn't last very long. And then should just have a normal, regular sort of digestion, without pain and suffering and
Yeah.
bloating. So,
Cool.
yeah. So, how about you? You got anything else you want to throw in there?
No, well, there's plenty, but unfortunately today I've got to do a short one. I've got to look after my son. He's on school holiday, or I think you guys call it vacation there, or whatever it is, school break.
Yes.
So I need to go and entertain my son today.
Mm.
I
Good
promise
for you.
I'll take him out for a drive. And
Taking him down to Santa Monica, are you? Third Street Promenade?
oh, I wish. I wish.
Uh,
Well, soon enough, I'll get there and I'll take him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
definitely. Cool.
Yeah, so come find me and Joe on Facebook. We're expanding. I know I've got a Minds account now. You can find the link in the show notes. I'll be copying this channel on Library, which is LBRY. I'll be so this channel will show up there and on Library and YouTube. And of course, I post lots of videos on Facebook, but also post them on Minds when they come out. So look for it there. If you're tired of some of the difficulties with Facebook and YouTube, there are alternatives out there, and we're all sort of exploring them and trying to plant new seeds elsewhere. So, but in the meantime, like the video, subscribe. Subscription really is very important. So if you got anybody, hopefully me, that makes content, Joe, that we're making these movies or videos for YouTube to help people out. If you subscribe, it makes a very big difference. So of course, if you watch, it makes a big difference as well. Maybe send the links on to somebody that'll help. And in the meantime, eat some meat, feel better, and don't
And
fall.
don't fall down the carb hole. We'll get it right one day.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Thanks for doing this with me.
Thanks.
And we will talk soon.